The clock is counting down to 0. Your character sees a mess of red and blue wiring nestled within the bomb. Only one wire shuts it off. The rest unleash hell.
Tonight, we discuss the ins and outs of racing against the clock.
That's how we roll. 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 That's how we roll.
Welcome to the Goblins Corner. My name is Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And tonight,
We're racing against the clock.
that's right. Tonight, we're going to show you how to run a speed-style campaign or other different types of games where time is very sensitive for your players, for you, for everybody.
Oh yeah, for the world at large.
For the world. Could be, certain death to the world, cataclysmic events that might unfold at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, a little 12 Monkeys action.
Oh, yeah. And all kinds of other shenanigans. But before we get to all of that, if you haven't yet, hit that like and subscribe button. Help us get our show out to more people and get notified when more amazing episodes come your way.
If you're listening to the show, give us a review on iTunes, Podchaser, or wherever else you happen to listen to our podcast.
There's no time to lose. Do it now. Do it absolutely now. Subscribe.
Pause and do a subscribe and a review.
Write us a review. It's nice. People like that. I like that.
Me too.
Gets us to more people. So, Matt, we're talking about race against the clock games.
Yes.
What exactly is a race against the clock game?
That means that whatever the goal or objective is time sensitive.
Yes. So anywhere where there's a timeline in the objective.
Right.
A good example of that is defeating the vampire before the solar eclipse.
Yeah.
Specific time frame. Vampire's going to become all powerful.
Yeah, there's a point on the calendar where things go bad.
Paladin's already tromping towards it.
Yep, as long as you can make it through the swamp.
Well, anything could happen with that. So that's what we're talking about. Things which are time sensitive. How do you unleash that dramatic tension in your game?
Right.
It's tough.
It can be.
It can be. First off, though, why would you even play a time sensitive game, Matt?
They are generally fast-paced games.
Mm-hmm.
And some people like a game that is moving at pace.
They're great for one-shots.
That's true, too.
They are great one-shot games. They have high elements of tension in them, which can or can't be hilarious and fun.
Right.
Depends if you're easily stressed. You may not want to play this, but if you enjoy this sort of thing, you should definitely try this.
And because of the tension and the time frame, they tend to be higher energy games because people are very focused and very energetic on trying to get from point A to point B.
Yes, indeed. Race against the clock style games focus on key objectives, specifically no time for dilly-dally, which means no side quests.
Sure.
You're focusing on like a main objective or maybe at the most two.
Right.
And it makes players really think about their resourcing and their choices. What do we mean by that?
Being on a set time frame forces prioritization, right? If there's a side quest, does it supply you with something that allows you to affect the clock in your favor? Or does it negatively affect the clock against your opponent?
Yeah. So if you've got only 6 months to defeat the big bad, that side quest you take to go, I don't know, grab some extra loot or a better weapon or maybe just some more XP, it better be important.
Yes.
Because if it isn't, you've lost.
Yeah. And that could be literally cataclysmic.
And also could be amazingly fun.
Yes.
To lose as well. But let's pretend we don't want to lose and we want to jump into this. Why else would you play a race against the clock style game, Matt?
These are very straightforward, like action movie paced games.
Mm-hmm.
There is a clear objective, there's a clear timeline, and you have to some extent, run at it headlong.
Watch 80% of the 80s and 90s action movies, and all of them are time sensitive.
Yes.
Think about it. I've got to defeat the bad guy before something gets blown up.
Yeah.
Before they get the Barabons at Nakatomi Plaza.
I was literally thinking Die Hard also.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
I think it's just because it's that time of year.
That's right. It's a good Christmas story.
It's
the best Christmas story. So let's start this with a DM primer. DMs, you got to know a couple of things when you're going to run this type of campaign. It's important, first off, to have a main objective.
Yes.
I would say that's the most important thing, because you can't run a time-sensitive game without some kind of main objective that your players are going to want to do.
The second point, which is arguably equally as important, is you have to know what the timeline is and why does this timeline exist? Because it's not a time-sensitive game without a timeline.
Yeah. Is this going to be a one-shot and they have to have everything done at the end of the game session? This could be, by the way, not just like in-game time, but also just game time.
Yes.
Could it be a heist campaign or a series of battles that are going to finish with, I don't know, some kind of crazy destruction?
Right.
Or maybe everybody gets saved. You never know, right? You might be the villain and the good guy comes through. That would suck. That'd be an interesting spin on a timeline campaign, too.
A villainish timeline campaign?
You're playing the bad guys, but you're going to be
defeated. The heroes are on the way?
Yeah, you're going to be defeated. You have to figure a way to stop that. That'd be fun.
Nice.
What necessary steps are there to achieve the objective?
Sure. What are the checkpoints?
Yeah, you don't have to have all of them, but the checkpoints is a great way to say it, Matt, because you want to know at least some of the major points so that you can kind of tick them off to let the characters know how far they've progressed.
If you're looking at it from the action movie standpoint, you pick up your ally, you move to the new location, you encounter your first set of enemies, your second set, and then the big bad, right? Like
it's like a series of save points in a game.
Checkpoint.
It's exactly, I was thinking checkpoints and stuff like that. Some other things that DMs you need to know about, or GMs, what is the flavor and the style of the game? That will definitely influence the pacing of the game. It'll also influence a lot of other stuff like how long it's going to be. Again, if it's like a heist-type campaign, it's probably a couple of one-shots at the most.
Yeah.
If it is an intrigue, time-sensitive game,
that's probably going to take a little longer.
Yeah, but that's also really interesting because how do you speed up a race against the clock to intrigue your way through stuff? Political action?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Imagine a political gala. You have to finish whatever it is you're attempting to do by the end of the gala because the people you're attempting to influence are going back to their countries.
That'd be a lot of fun. And of course, one of the classics is some kind of apocalypse is going to be averted, right? Heroes have to stop some kind of big bad from doing some kind of big thing so that the world doesn't go big boom.
Yes. Big bada boom.
Big bada boom. Another thing that you need to know as a storyteller is you need to figure a way to control the time frame. What do we mean by that, Matt?
You have to know what kind of pitfalls you can throw in to slow down the story if your players are moving far too quickly. You also need to know what story elements you can throw in to alleviate when your players have kind of stalled out and you need to speed the story back up.
Yeah. So players will oftentimes murderize everything in the room that you thought was going to take a couple game sessions, or maybe slow down so that the bad guy can get away.
Right.
And then they're going to stumble over, I don't know, a puzzle that's going to take them the entire game session to figure out.
Sure.
This happens, but this is real life stuff we're talking about here.
Right.
You may or may not want to slow the story down or speed it up to accommodate that. You may want to have a helpful NPC show up at the most proper time to assist if they're stuck in a particular area. Again, it's a storytelling game, right? We're not here to screw with the players.
Yeah, Carl Winslow shows up and provides police backup.
Yeah, nothing wrong with the friendly cop showing up just to help you along.
Yeah.
There you go. Again, you may want to slow stuff down too. Maybe you want to increase that dramatic tension and you want to throw more obstacles in the way. Have a couple of contingencies and backup plans. That's all we're saying.
And cops can be speed ups and impediments.
Mm-hmm. Again, these are blunt instruments, but they're just options that players can take that the DM provides too.
To me, one of the most important things that you can set forward in a game is what are the stakes and how do they apply and how can you use those stakes as tension for this game?
Yeah, raising the stakes is always a good way to kind of apply a timing element as well and let the characters know, hey, stuff is progressing even though you aren't doing anything. So a good example of that you wrote down, which I really like, is a slowly creeping corruption in town. This is an easy way to gauge how long things are taking, right?
Yeah, there's a visual cue.
If it takes too long, it's overtaken the town, and now you got to burn it to the ground.
Old MacDonald had a farm.
And if you blow through it really quickly, that might be an indication that you have sped time up.
Yeah.
Or the players are ahead of something, and they can maybe get to the next stage.
You also are going to need to know what success and failure look like at the end of the day.
If you botch a heist, you
go to jail.
You go to jail, or you don't get the thing that you want.
Right.
If you don't stop the Lich, who is currently trying to turn the dragon into a Draco Lich, and then bring the moon down into the planet, well,
eventually you have a necrotic empire, or the end of the world as you know it.
which may work for you if you're a necromancer.
Sure.
Just saying. But that would suck.
But do you really want to be the undersecretary? Like you failed. You're obviously not going to be high on the list.
This guy made me the janitor. Jesus. That's what happens
Got
sometimes.
to clean up after the zombies.
That's awful. Awful. Now, PCs, we didn't forget about you as well. There's a couple of things you need to expect as well if you're going to play a Race Against the Clock campaign.
First off, as we mentioned for the DMs, high tension and lots of action.
Assume there's going to be action. This is not it can be dramatic, but this is not a slow-paced, dramatic style game.
Right.
Lots of tension, lots of action.
And even if it is a dramatic game, it's going to be a fast-paced, high-tension, dramatic game.
Yes. Don't expect lots of long side quests or exploration in this game.
You don't have time for that.
You might have some,
Right.
but don't expect to just spend several game sessions wandering in the woods, getting into trouble.
I'm going to go down this mega dungeon. No, you're not. You don't have time for that.
This train is getting to Sharn, and they're delivering supplies to Sharn, and if you don't rob that train in time, it's all over.
Sure.
There's a bomb in Sharn. It's going to blow up the whole damn city.
I was just thinking, like, it's the next seer.
Oh, yeah. That would be cool.
Your characters, to some extent, will need to be streamlined towards the style of the game.
And this comes along as a session 0 that the DM is going to give you, obviously. They're going to tell you, hey, here's some things that we're going to play. This is going to be a Race Against the Clock style game. They might even say this could be a one-shot or a series of games, or they might not, right? They may just say it is what it is, right?
Right.
But that lets you not necessarily optimize your character, but you can if you want, but mostly play along so that you and the rest of your players can work together as a group. Working together is going to make or break the game for you as a player.
Absolutely. But also, it's going to tell you, for the purposes of this game, maybe do not invest in downtime skills.
That's
Things
a good
like
point.
craft skills and stuff like that. You simply aren't going to have the time to indulge in that.
Yep. Expect clearly defined goals.
Yet this is not a sandbox game. You're on a fast-moving train. You have to get things done.
Got to do this, this, and this.
You can also expect to work towards completing those goals, right?
What do you mean by this? Now, we mentioned working together as a team, but what it really comes down to...
Don't be a right? If your group is moving towards an objective, don't be like, oh, well, I'm going to spend this entire 7-hour gaming session as a shopping episode. Just stop. Don't do that.
Yeah,
Don't be that guy.
This is the type of game that you want to work together to create a really dramatic, interesting story, right? This is a Mission Impossible style theme. This is an Ocean's 11. This is a high fantasy, heroic, save the world type thing. This is a James Bond game.
Yeah.
All of those are on a timetable, right? Weigh your specialization options versus generalization carefully.
Largely, it's going to depend on the party makeup. But if you do not have someone to fill the necessary roles for whatever the objective is, you're going to need at least one character who generalizes so that they can pick up a lot of pieces. Your bard style character who has half proficiency in every skill, right? You're going to need somebody who can do a little bit of everything.
You're going to need a tank. You're going to need a glass cannon. You're probably going to need a Batman. Right?
I mean,
a wizard.
Sure.
You're going to need someone who is a party support person and probably a medic.
And some classes, depending on the game, can actually cover multiples of those. Like rogues can be glass cannons and skill generalists.
Mm-hmm.
And are. That's kind of their thing.
100%. And finally, although we've stressed this a couple of times already, teamwork is the name of the game. You've got a series of challenges and objectives that you're going to have to overcome. How can everyone work together to pull off the heist or kill the sorcerer or save the princess?
Yeah.
Or the prince.
You have to work together.
Save the flump, save the world. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
That's pretty awesome if you think about it.
Absolutely.
You save the flump to save the world. It's a flump that is the magical MacGuffin. It's the one flump.
Yeah.
Kind of like Neo, the one, but it is the flump that made the reality. And if you kill this flump, the reality dies. All magic dies. You have to save the flump.
Yeah. The flump is wounded and comatose and being held in a coma-like state in New Jersey on the boardwalk.
Ugh. We'll get that flump back, we promise.
I wonder how many people will get that.
And now for something slightly different, Matt, we have what tonight?
It's time for the question of the week.
All right. What question of the week do we have this week?
So we're talking about racing against the clock and that sort of thing. What special effect would you as a DM use to provide tension in this style game?
I would say for a race against the clock style campaign, music, I would have a heavy playlist of dramatic dun 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 dun, dun type music.
Dun-dun-dun.
Yeah, some sound effects or something like that. Something that kind of gets the heart racing. It would be, slightly low, and then when you get into the action scenes, the real high tension areas, you kind of kick it up a little bit, have a notch. Yeah, some Mission Impossible, or even if you're doing like a fantasy game, some kind of epic fantasy style music. There's a lot of free stuff available too.
It's true. It would be cool if you had a beat that worked at speeds across the board, and you could literally just adjust the BPMs as you went.
You can totally do that in some software.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I love that. What is your answer to this?
Because apparently I enjoy afflicting anxiety upon people, I would, at a low volume, just have at random intervals a clock start ticking.
Just.
Yep.
Yeah. That would be annoying, and then it would be disturbing.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
But it would definitely be a reminder that you've got to stay moving. You got to get the show on the road here.
Yeah. Of course, we're always interested in your answer to the question of the week. And if you have one, hit us up at Gobbler's Corner on Twitter and all the various socials that Matt posts to.
You can also comment down below. I'm actually really interested in people's answer for this because I feel like there's a certain level of evilness you have to tap into
to instill that dramatic tension.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hit us up, folks. We're really interested to see what you guys come up with. So we're talking about running a racing against the clock style game.
Yes.
And speaking of running it, let's talk about running it.
Okay. That makes sense.
So we've got some DM prep. We've got some character prep. Now we're in the game. Here are some tips and tricks that we've found are very useful to just kind of amp up the dramatic tension and play it well.
The first one is clearly state the objective and the time frame for the players.
And I would say do this frequently.
Sure.
Do it in the beginning when you're doing like the intro for the game. Do it after every session or before you start the next session.
Or have NPCs provide reminders.
Because people are going to forget.
Yeah.
They are. They're just I'm going to forget everything I talked about right after I record this.
It's 7 days to the equinox. Are you guys prepared for the festival?
Yeah. Let them know that whatever this event is or the MacGuffin is important. That's pretty much the whole reason for the story.
Right.
Speaking of which, provide easy and hard choices.
Yes. If you make the easy path take more time, the faster path be more dangerous, then players have to start weighing their time frame versus their survivability.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Oh, you've got to get to the castle before the princess is murdered in this horrible ritual that's going to turn her into a banshee. Okay, you could go around the dark forest.
But that's going to take time.
Yeah.
Or you could go straight through it, but it's very dangerous.
There's all kinds of demonic spiders that are just kind of scurrying around in the forest.
Sure.
Yeah. There's an old man that's brewing whiskey. He's crazy. He might blow you up with the whiskey. You never know. It's a fun way to give them choices. Again, both choices lead to the same place, but one, they might die getting there.
Right.
The other one, they're going to have to bust ass to break into the castle because they've took all the time to go all the way around.
Right.
And, no choice for me in my game is an easy choice. So you take the easy choice. Cool. Go all the way around the forest. But there's bandits on the edge of the forest.
Oh, sure. But bandits are still easier than demonic spiders.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Another good example is killing the enemy versus letting them go.
It's true. You never know whether or not being merciful is a good idea or a bad idea.
Because they could come back and slow you back down if you're trying to defeat the bad guy.
Sure. Or, like in the case of, say, you spare a goblin. You spare a goblin, they're ever so thankful. They immediately go on to start providing defense for a village down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Or you spare a goblin who was a scout. He gets back to his village.
And they burn
the other village down.
It's tricky goblins. They'll get you like that.
Yeah.
Timing is key in running a race against the clock campaign. Surprise.
Yeah.
Controlling the clock is a form of combat. What do we mean by that?
Yes. The bad guy wins as long as the players don't reach them in time. They don't have to beat the players in combat. Because if they successfully murder the king, bring down the moon, raise the great old one, whatever.
Well, let's talk about the greatest Christmas story ever told. You're in Nakatomi Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get the bearer bonds.
Mm-hmm.
When they get the bearer bonds, they're leaving in their chopper.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many ventilation shafts you're crawling through.
Yeah.
McLean's done.
Sure.
Story's done, right? So you've got that time. Everything else slows him down in the movie. Same thing in the game.
And he does things to slow them down in turn. And that is a form of combat that takes place on a completely different level than the physical and gun style combat.
And I love that you mentioned that because players can totally take shortcuts to force the bad guy's hand.
Yes. And if they do that, the bad guy is going to lose preparation time or resources or whatever is necessary. They're on the same time frame you're on.
Yeah.
So if you can do things to stall them, you can run out the clock for them as well.
They don't have the needed ingredients to complete the ritual. Ritual doesn't happen. It only takes place once every 100 years in the solstice. You don't have to defeat the Lich. You just have to stop the Lich from doing the ritual.
If your characters are of a very pragmatic bent, maybe they just go ahead and murder all the sacrifices before it's time.
Ooh, yeah.
It's an awful option, but the moon didn't crash into the world.
That's a good point. Yeah, so a lot of fun to play with stuff like that. Dramatic tension is also a lot of fun. Let's give some examples on dramatic tension, Matt.
I love the idea of the players are crashing for the night. You do a cutscene of what's going on in the evil palace or what's going on. The princess that you're being sent to save, of just her, having a lovely evening, having dinner, getting ready for bed. But meanwhile, there's this entire underlying tone of she's gonna die if you guys don't do something.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Another thing you can do is the foreshadowing, like with Elder Evils and the apocalyptic style games. So, for example, all right, you're a week in, frogs start raining from the sky. Then the frogs start raining acidic blood. And then it starts raining frogs, acidic blood, and I don't know, razor blades. Or, you know what I mean? Something happens, or people's minds start it just gets worse and worse. And so you know that at some point, the end of the world is going to happen.
The ground starts turning into a cheese grater.
It's terrible. Only the paladin survived, but then he drowned in all the blood.
Sure.
Stress relationships between characters. Again, this is an important game to work together.
Right.
This is also a lot of fun if you're turning up the tension to have a little bit of inner bickering between the two characters, right?
Yeah. You want to have that classic ensemble style relationship, right? Think Firefly, the Avengers, right? A little bit of back and forth can be a lot of fun as long as everybody is on board.
Absolutely. I love that. And finally, and Matt, I thought this was a really interesting idea, chess timer for turns. Talk to me about this. This is brilliant, by the way.
You have X amount of time per encounter.
Okay.
And you use a chess timer to accomplish this.
Just like a regular chess timer like you'd play chess in. Okay.
Yes. And so your players only get their half of the chess clock, and the storyteller gets their half. That's a great way to force speed turns. Another one I like the idea of is, let's say you start the game, everybody gets a minute to make a decision on their turn. But the closer you get to the end of the game, the less time you give them on their turn.
So you have like an egg timer?
Yes.
And the egg timer goes off, and if you don't decide anything, then your turn is done.
You lose your turn.
I love that idea. That allows people to also kind of think about prepping what they're going to do ahead of time. They're not looking in books going, I'm going to cast, let me look at the spell here.
Yep.
And that's a lot of dramatic tension because now I'm stressed because I have to make a decision before the egg timer goes off. And if I'm 10 games in, and then instead of a minute, now I've only got 20 seconds.
Yes.
Or 10 seconds. That's pretty cool.
Making time be the theme of the game and finding mechanical ways to tie that in, I think could be a lot of fun in the right group.
Yeah. Float this by your players before you just interject an egg timer into your campaign. You might get a lot of angry people.
Yeah. Some people can't handle that.
Don't do this with newbies who don't know the rules.
Yeah.
Do this with people who've played this game before. Finally, we have a couple of story ideas, as we are like to do. Matt, the first one is really good. It's an oldie but goodie. What is it?
Stop the ritual.
Yeah.
Players must stop a ritual before X happens.
This is a classic trope in a race against the clock, right? Stop the ritual before blank happens. They got to stop a cult of darkness from shattering the moon, as we mentioned.
Yeah. Or what if you're playing the other side of this? A team of villains must prevent the ascension of a domain.
Yeah.
We don't want all this happiness.
Kill all those good guys.
Exactly.
That sounds great. A catch a villain campaign is a lot of fun. Or catch whatever. Catch the train. Catch the MacGuffin.
Oh, I was thinking you're basically like chasing a villain to a boundary. And if they get to the border, they're free. Or they're just trying to disappear into the forest, whatever.
This would be a good bounty hunting campaign.
Yeah.
You've got to maybe get a series of different villains in the domain before they get away into the other lands because you don't have jurisdiction there.
Exactly.
That would be a lot of fun. A planned assassination is a race against the clock.
Absolutely.
And this could be either for the assassins or against the assassins.
That's true. You could be the assassins or the people attempting to stop the assassins.
I don't always play villains. I just happen to think like one.
Well, and sometimes the person you're attempting to assassinate's the bad guy.
That's a good point.
Race to the MacGuffin.
Okay, you got to get to the thing to save the world, or just to get to the thing.
Yeah. It could even just be a race to the finish line, like a death race.
Ooh, yeah. Fantasy campaign, chariots.
Absolutely.
Flying winged dragons or something like that. We mentioned this before, kind of the stop the ritual. This is kind of some variations on that. A timed apocalypse.
Any apocalypse.
Now, it may not be a ritual that's causing the apocalypse. Maybe just an apocalypse is happening.
Sure.
It's the end of the world, folks.
Somebody could be setting off a chain of atomic bombs, and you've got to stop the first one, otherwise the chain will go.
Or a celestial event. The sun's about to go out or explode. How are you going to save that? You got to race against the time to figure that out, right?
Yep. Any timed event, really.
Timed events are great for this. So it could be the timed event before a major political marriage or the time before a war. You got to stop the war or start the war.
Before the peace treaty's signed.
Yeah. Thinking like a villain again.
Another timed event is a once-in-a-lifetime event. What if you're going to the only place in the world where you can see a magical comet.
Ooh.
It only comes by once every 373 years.
Every 100 years, the phoenix is reborn, and then the eggshell shatters into ash, and you have to capture a little bit of that eggshell for a magical reagent.
Yeah.
Before
Anything
it
like
crumbles.
that. Yeah.
Got to put it in stasis. That would be kind of cool, right?
Absolutely.
Or maybe there's a planar conjunction, and you've got to get to the underworld to save somebody. And it's only once every month.
Sure.
And if you miss it, you're screwed. Can't get there unless you get to the planar conjunction.
You know where this one's going to be. It happens once every month, but you don't know where it's going to be every month.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
It moves around.
Another classic one, and I love this idea, is Speed, the D&D game. Players are trapped on something that's moving, and if it gets below a certain speed, it explodes. This would be hilarious. This would be hilarious in either a Zeppelin, if you're playing like some kind of steampunk campaign, or some sort of elemental airship.
Lightning rail.
A lightning rail would be great. Yes, if the lightning rail gets below a certain speed and stops, then it explodes. There's a magical bomb.
Sure.
I love this idea so much. We're totally doing a speed in Sharn. It starts in Sharn, just kind of the lightning rail heads out.
Okay.
And if it blows up, there's political tension, right? It might start another war.
Sure.
That'd be a lot of fun.
You've always got the good old-fashioned, we've mentioned it a couple of times, timed heist.
A timed heist.
Little Ocean's 11 action.
Yeah.
The players must infiltrate and steal from an armed, in this case, we're going to use lightning rail again,
Okay.
before it reaches its destination. Let's say the pay for a large contingent is on its way somewhere. You're just trying to get the chests off the train, man.
Yeah. Or there's maybe a vault that something is stored in temporarily. You got to get it out before they come and collect.
Yeah. Or literally any museum exhibit, because they rotate them in and out.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
When they rotate one out, they go into the vaults. You don't want to have to deal with the vaults.
Yeah. It's too much stuff there. And finally, guilty until proven innocent. Players are accused of a crime they didn't commit and must solve the case before the Templar arrives to deliver punishment.
Seems vaguely familiar.
It's almost like there was a TV show based off of that.
Oh, I was talking about a game you've run relatively recently.
There's also that too, yes.
It doesn't start in a bar, it starts in a jail.
Yeah, and you're accused of a crime. Hey, look, you're either going to go to prison or you're going to get executed. They're going to let you out to solve the murder or solve the crime, whatever it is. You've got 24 hours or 2 days or however long it takes, right?
Sure.
And then when that Templar or that Justicar gets there, they're going to chop your head off. There's no running from them. They can teleport.
Sure.
You're on a time frame, like it starts now. You better solve that crime. That's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So there you have it. A couple of ways that you can use Race Against the Clock in your campaign to add a whole bunch of dramatic tension, a lot of fun, and really interesting story elements.
It's good for just running a high-speed action campaign also.
We could talk about it forever, but we don't have time.
It's probably true.
Any questions or comments, hit us up at Goblin's Corner on Twitter and the various socials. Did you enjoy this podcast? We got a couple others that are hitting you lightning fast. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite player, YouTube, and Twitch.
Click the 5 stars and give us a review on iTunes and Podchaser or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. And on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button. It helps get our show in front of more people, and it feeds the hungry algorithm.
Which is currently upping the dramatic tension music, and you hear in the background a clicking time bomb as it explodes. Help our channel explode. It'd be great. That's all the time we have for tonight. Once again, my name is Eric.
And I'm Matt.
We'll see you next time.
Good night, folks. In a world where the Goblin's Corner is by Matt Staples
And Eric Holden. Show song by the mighty D20.
this has been a Subterranean production.
Coming soon.